Overall, the use of rainbow coloration in Eyes Wide Shut seems to be a means of conveying a kind of delusional reality. I mean, rainbows themselves are an illusion. And the Christmas lights are a central example of this. In real life, we're generally aware that the ritual of Christmas and the belief in Santa Claus is basically a big wish fulfillment fantasy for kids. So like with the general use of brightly coloured packaging when products are marketed to kids, Christmas presents are wrapped in pretty paper and we adorn the gift-receiving environment with shiny and colourful baubles, tinsel and lights. But in Eyes Wide Shut, this kaleidoscopic Christmas decor serves an additional purpose. It conveys sexual excitement. The two wives, Alice and Ilona, look gorgeous here and are stood against a backdrop of Christmas lights. In this moment, Alice and Sandor are each stood against their own halo of electric flower props. This arrangement is maintained as Sandor steps in because the camera moves closer. So each of them maintains a sort of Christmas light halo around themselves. Alice and Bill, being hit on and enjoying it, are both dazzled by excessive Christmas lights as part of their experience. Alice with lights spinning around her. I even wondered whether it was accident or intent that, as Alice downs a glass of champagne, the Christmas lights behind her shift gradually out of focus. Bill's anticipation of a sexual encounter with Domino is enhanced by Christmas lights too. As she removes her coat, she's framed by them. Once Bill realises he has to break off the encounter and go home, trying to suppress a bulge in his trousers, a reverse angle removes the Christmas lights from the shot. Bye-bye sparkly anticipation. When Bill's told by Nick about a party with unbelievably hot women, the backdrops are a collage of unfocused colour circles, very pretty, like they're in a candy store.
Bill, I have seen one or two things in my life, but never anything like this. And never such women.
And once he gets to the party and it turns out to be something a lot more scary than he anticipated, no more Christmas lights. Although that does seem to be more related to the satanic implications of the scene, holding an orgy with no Christmas lights during the Christmas holiday. When Bill visits the Nathanson apartment and he becomes the desired one, Christmas lights again convey the arousal. Bill is seen against colourful Christmas lights by Marion as he enters the room to lighten her spirits, while her dull-as-nails boyfriend enters and is not shown with the Christmas tree in shot. And when Bill leaves the room, the Christmas lights are accentuated by the out-of-focus effect. She still desires him. We get the same Christmas lighting effects with Domino's roommate. As soon as she opens the door, she stands in a halo of Christmas lights. This continues as he enters the apartment. The Christmas tree first maintains a pink aura around her, and as they flirt and Bill cops a feel, the Christmas tree lights, out of focus, are like suspended rainbow sparkles of arousal between them. This visual arrangement is then broken by her sitting down to tell him that Domino has HIV. But still, in her close-up shots, a set of out-of-focus Christmas lights gives her a lovely halo, like she's radiating sexual energy. She is gorgeous, but how much of her visual appeal here is just down to Kubrick's sneaky lighting arrangement? Similar use of such lighting occurs when Militch's daughter flirts with Bill. But when she has her second appearance in which Bill is disgusted at Militch pimping her out, no Christmas light framing. And in the final shot of the movie, when Billis and Alice sort of patch up their relationship and she finishes by stating that they need to fuck as soon as possible, hey, we've got the pretty Christmas light halo effects again. So it seems that Christmas lights, especially when out of focus, are quite consistently linked to sexual arousal. There are some examples of women Bill interacts with where there are specifically no Christmas lights and those women seem disinterested in him anyway. The waitress who doesn't want to tell Bill where Nick is staying, and the fact that she knows where Nick is staying suggests that she may have had some involvement with him.
Nick Nightingale. Sure. He comes in here.
Do you know where he's staying?
Well, I don't know if you'd want me to give out his address.
And wouldn't that play on Bill's jealousy? There's also the strangely impersonal receptionist in Bill's office, dressed in dull grey in both her scenes, and with a Christmas tree behind her in shot here, which doesn't have any lights on it, or they're not switched on. so she's being conveyed as a sort of sexual non-entity. The sudden removal or switching off of Christmas lights is used from time to time in the story to imply the collapse of wishful illusion and the realization of stark reality. When we get to the sobering drug overdose bathroom scene, the overkill Christmas lights of the Ziegler party are no longer present. And when Bill enters the morgue to look at Mandy's corpse, again no Christmas lights. I'm not saying anyone would put Christmas lights in a room full of corpses, but we would expect some in the halls here, yet there are none at all. Just one lone tree in the main reception area before Bill learns of Mandy's death. Next up, Bill is summoned back to see Ziegler, and some of the Christmas lights are still on, but others are switched off, like Bill is psychologically beginning to sober up. In particular, the Christmas snowflake lights are off. There's no Christmas lights in the pool room, where Bill is hit with unpleasant emotions and apparently the truth about Mandy. The emotional sparkle is gone. And then when he gets home, he switches the Christmas tree lights off like he's decided to face reality and stop pursuing fantasy. Next morning, after an obviously long chat with Alice during the night and probably no sleep, Bill sits guilt-ridden and framed by the Christmas tree, which still has its lights turned off. The glitter effect we see in close-up is just the natural reflections of the baubles from the window light. And it's appropriate too that in the toy store ending, virtually no Christmas lights until Bill and Alice stand together for that final moment of sexual reconnection. There is another use of Christmas lighting that I think is neither sexual nor intended to imply delusion, and that is the framing of the Harford's daughter against Christmas tree lights in her introduction. Kubrick was a devoted father who loved his daughters according to all accounts that I've read, and Bill does ignore his family somewhat in the film. Funnily enough, the unseen confession from Bill, which we might expect would lead to divorce, is followed by Alice saying that they need to take Helena Christmas shopping, as in maintain the illusion of happiness for her sake. That's not entirely cynical either. Parents do have to maintain comforting illusions for children as they're growing up, so that they can gradually introduce them to the harsher facets of reality in keeping with the development of their cognitive abilities. Note the range of coloured pens Helena has too. Kids' colourful drawings are a kind of glimpse into the rainbow fantasy reality of how they perceive the world. The destruction of the Christmas delusion comes in other forms as well, including dialogue. The Yale guys heckling Bill, they wish him Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Mary! My brothers are back there.
During his taxi ride to Somerton, an ironic Happy Holiday sign in giant letters hovers briefly into view. And when Bill is followed in the streets, an ironic Merry Christmas sign in the cafe entrance greets us with the cafe name Sharky's, Sharky's being like a threatening animal. Back to the daughter Helena. She asks for a puppy and is rejected as Bill considers the reality of having to look after one.
Daddy, am I going to get a puppy for Christmas?
Well, we'll see about that, okay?
And when she asks for a giant teddy, Alice sneaks a look at the price tag. Bill even refuses to wrap the remaining presents for Alice, and we can see on the table that there's still a lot of them to be wrapped.
So how do you feel about wrapping the rest of the presents?
Let's do that tomorrow.
We see assorted people in the streets carrying shopping and wrapped presents. A lot of these people look like the types who would find the buying of Christmas presents to be a financial struggle. Even Domino, in her tiny, cramped apartment which she shares with a friend, has somehow managed to buy presents which are stacked in her bathtub. She'll certainly be glad of that $150 from Bill. His discomfort at seeing her squalor, I mean the friggin' bath is in the kitchen, is expressed when he first enters the apartment. All he can think of to say is,
Nice tree.
drawing attention straight to the illusionary feature of the poverty environment. There are tons of Christmas card props throughout the film too. Most are unreadable and appear to be incidental, but some appear to have possibly symbolic reference to the content of scenes. Bill sits in a stupor of jealousy here, and right in front of his line of vision from our perspective is a card with a semi-naked goddess on it. Perhaps she is like the elusive female archetype that he seeks. Next to him, in Domino's place, a picture of a naked Cupid. There's also the Santa card on top of the Harford fridge, which moves and disappears in between shots, while beneath it is what appears to be a drawing of Red Cloak by Bill's own daughter. If Red Cloak is being implied to be cross-symbolised with Santa, then it could just be Kubrick's way of saying, look folks, Santa and Red Cloak don't exist. It's all staged. After all, the Christmas festivities that we engage in are basically a giant cult-like ritual in parallel with Somerton. So what was Stanley Kubrick's attitude toward the ritual of Christmas in real life? Well, co-writer of Eyes Wide Shut Frederick Raphael stated in his memoir that Kubrick demanded he work through Christmas, but Raphael refused to do so. Yet Raphael also describes visiting the Kubrick estate and seeing the ritual of Christmas present arrangements occurring in what he described as a business-like manner. Maybe that's to be taken with a pinch of salt though, because his book is written in very much a manner in which it's a sort of attack on Kubrick. He makes it very clear throughout the book that he's thoroughly pissed off because Kubrick wouldn't tell him his reasons for making Eyes Wide Shut or what he really wanted out of him as a writer. Raphael also says that he received a copy of Vincent van Gogh prints from Stanley for Christmas. And by whopping coincidence, Alice and Helena are wrapping the same present for someone in the movie. However, in the Kubrick Archives book is a reprinted quote that I think sums up Kubrick's views on the social rituals of not just Christmas, but the many normality rituals that we all conform to without question. It's a quote from Martin Swale's book, Arthur Schnitzler, A Critical Study. Schnitzler wrote the Traum novelle novel, of course, which Eyes Wide Shut is an adaptation of. And Kubrick had underlined this quote in the book, thus implying his agreement with it. As he, meaning Bill, moves deeper into this strange world, he thinks back with affection to the stable world of his everyday realities. He feels the orderly social reality to which he belongs is some kind of monstrous sham. So, my impression is that Kubrick didn't necessarily hate the ritual of Christmas itself, he was just using it as a social example of mass ritualization. Only a fool could fail to realise that, fading religious connotations aside, Christmas has become a family holiday period. It serves a social function of making families spend time together and strengthen their bonds. It's difficult to know just how important the Christmas family bonding ritual is because virtually everybody in Western society conforms to it. Without Christmas, would families be more likely to drift apart emotionally? It's an interesting question. Yet at the same time, Christmas does put pressure on people, some of whom struggle to think of presents the family will actually want and appreciate, so sometimes they just go and give them money as a gift to sort of buy themselves out of failing to meet the demands of the ritual. A lot of people find Christmas very stressful, all that shopping and the hole it puts in their wallets, the time taken to wrap presents and put up the Christmas decorations, trying to match the excessive Christmas gifts overspending of their partner if that happens to be the case, and the whinging and moaning on Christmas Day of spoiled kids who didn't get precisely what they wanted and don't appreciate what they did get. In particular, I've found out that a lot of men are disinterested in Christmas and just find it a general hassle. They believe it to be a ritual for the sake of women and kids, yet they still engage in it either out of social pressure or because they want to see their family enjoying the ritual. But if someone dares to say, you know what, I'm going to skip the Christmas ritual this year because I'm really busy and I'm strapped for cash. Don't buy me any presents, anyone, because I'm not buying for anyone myself. What would the social response to that be? Most of us never get to find out because we make sure to conform to the Christmas ritual every year of our adult lives. However, I did personally announce I was skipping Christmas once when I was going through a couple of severe personal crises one particular winter. And nobody complained to my face about it, and perhaps they let me off the hook because of the difficulties I was having that December, but without the personal crisis, I suspect they wouldn't have been so forgiving. And if someone were to say, hey, I don't do Christmas at all, which they would be legally entitled to do, I'm sure they'd be viewed as the equivalent of Ebenezer Scrooge. In fact, I wonder how much Charles Dickens's widely read novel contributes to the indoctrination of the Christmas ritual mentality. Kids are made to read it in school, and it ingrains the message, only a nasty social undesirable avoids the Christmas ritual. That's brainwashing for you, folks. The whole indoctrination of Christmas conformity and the social function that ritual holds for us is a fascinating and complex subject in itself. Kubrick joined in the ritual, it appears, but based on the Christmas illusion themes in Eyes Wide Shut, I think he had certain reservations about its value as a social function and its indoctrinating ritual qualities.